Plan Committee. Welcome to those in the gallery and those online as well. Item 1 on our agenda is apologies. I have an apology from Councillor McAduffie. He's arriving about 30 minutes late. So that's noted. Any further apologies? Councillor Mahan will be online. Okay. And I see Councillor John McLahary is online, and also Councillor Mahan has joined us online as well. And I suppose I just remind those online to keep their camera visible. Those members online keep their camera on for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. So, sorry, go ahead, Councillor McLahary.
Thank you. I'm not sure. I can't see the chamber. I know Councillor Rainey was attending the funeral, and I'm not sure. Maybe he has made it.
He is here. Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 2 is any declarations of interest in respect to the agenda. Don't see anyone indicating. Okay, and item 3 then is to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the planning.
Sorry, Glenn.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So I've just got into the house and managed to get my.
Sorry, you've muted. So
sorry. I've just got into the house and I'm not able to. I'm trying to bring up the agenda on my phone. The one in Ballinamallard, I lobbied on their behalf at a previous when I was a councillor.
Yes, no problem. That's
so I'll not take part in that one. Thank you.
Application number 3, yeah, LA 10 2024-0397F, and that's no problem. So we'll ask that you be removed to the lobby at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. See any further indications at this point? And so item 3 then was to sign the minutes and the confidential minutes of the planning committee meeting held on the 22nd October 25, and also the reconvened meeting held on the 24th of October 2025, and that has been done, members. Item 4 then is to consider one file for decision by the planning committee, and that's paper A, and that's application number 1, LA 10 2025 0954 LBC. We did hear some feedback. It's gone nice. It is. Yeah. It's okay now. Thank you.
Apologies, members. That was a laptop. Let's see. Okay, members, so good afternoon. So paper A, application number 1, LA 10 2025-954. It's an application for listed building consent for the replacement of an automatic opening front entrance door at the Ardouin Theatre. The applicant then is the council, and the recommendation is to approve listed building consent for the reasons listed within the report and subject to 2 conditions.
Members, this would fall into the category of a non-contentious application. So we can, of course, take any questions or any comments, and our officers are here to answer those. But I would propose that we move to that discussion and debate on this application and not go through the full report, if you're in agreement. Oh, no problem. Yeah. Perfect. Go ahead, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm happy enough to propose if there's no issues. That was okay.
It's just
no problem. No, that's fine. Thank you. Just going to recap just.
Yeah, okay, members, so just start that again. So paper A, application number 1, LA 10 2025-954, application for listed building consent for the replacement of the automatic opening front door at the Ardouin Theatre in Enniskillen. The applicant then is the council, and the recommendation is to approve listed building consent for the reasons listed within the report and subject to 2 conditions. As the chair says, members, this is a non-contentious paper A application with no speaking rights. And if you're agreeable, then just to proceed on in accordance with protocol.
Okay, thank you. That facilitates those that have joined there. And Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Thanks to Darren for taking us through that. Councillor McGrath has already proposed the recommendation. I'm happy to second the recommendations as listed.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
thank you, members. So that's been proposed by Councillor McGrath and seconded by Councillor Thompson in agreement with the officer's recommendation to approve. And are we all in agreement with that? All agreed. And Councillor McLahry, go ahead, sorry. Happy, yeah?
Apologies, my hand's up from the last time.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, just ask Darren to sum up the application. Thank you.
Yep. So paper A application number 1, LA 10 2025 and 954. Members have granted list of building consent, subject to 2 conditions.
Thank you. Application number 2 then is LA 10 2024 0965 F. And Darren's going to speak on that application.
Okay, members. So just to provide an update, members, this is not included in your presentation. So the paper B application number 1, LA 10 2025 522. So erection of domestic garage store, additional road entrance and extension of curtilage. The applicant then is Endorn, and the location then you can see in the Bow Island Road. The recommendation of officers is to approve planning permission. An email was received from the agent on Monday, the 8th of December, which includes a supporting statement and a drawing showing details of a cross-section plan. This would be new information that needs to be sent out for public consultation to allow neighbours to review it and provide submit any comments if they want. So planning officers are requesting that the application is deferred for 2 months to allow neighbours and interested parties the opportunity to review this information and submit comments should you wish to do so. So requesting a deferral for 2 months.
And Darren did correct me. That was application number 1 of item 5.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Darren then propose to defer for 2 months. I propose that.
Goes to the fair there by Councillor Feely. Councillor Robinson.
I'll second that.
It's been proposed and seconded then, the deferral. Are we all in agreement, members? Okay,
Okay, so just to confirm then, so paper B application number 1, LA 10 2025 of 522 is deferred for 2 months and will be returned to the planning committee in February.
thank you, Darren. Application number 2 then is number LA 10 2024 0965 F. I'm going to ask Darren to take us through that as well.
Yeah, again, members, another update, just this isn't included in your presentation. So paper B, then application number 2, LA 10 2024 965, full application for the proposed extension to an existing storage building. The applicant is C. McCrae and the location in on Circular Road. Recommendation of officers is to refuse planning permission. Just to give you an update then, so an email was received from Tom Buchanan, MLA, on Wednesday, the 3rd of May in support of the application, and that has been uploaded to the planning portal. Another email was received from a planning consultant on behalf of the applicant, T. Gurley, on Tuesday, the 8th of December in support of the application, which includes new information. A second email then was received from T. Gurley on Thursday, the 11th of December, stating he is of the opinion that the application should be discussed and considered at the planning committee meeting this afternoon. And he asks that his email is circulated to the planning committee members before they make a decision on whether or not to defer the application. So the information that came in from the planning consultant on Tuesday, the 8th of December, members, includes new information that hasn't been before the third parties or the planning office or the council, before. So that new information then would require public consultation again. So planning officers are asking for a deferral of the application for 2 months to allow neighbours and interested parties the opportunity to review that and submit comments should they wish to do so.
Okay, Councillor McGrath,
Thank you, Chair. Happy enough to propose.
propose that deferral, yeah. Councillor Robinson.
I'm happy to second that.
Yeah, that's been seconded, members, deferral. Are members in agreement? We're all in agreement, yeah. Okay, Darren, thank you.
Okay, members, so just to confirm then, application number 2, LA 10 2024 965/F has been deferred for 2 months and will be returned to the planning committee in February for a decision.
Okay, members, so application number 3 then is LA 10 2024 0397 F. And Darren's going to take us through this application now.
Okay, members, so
Oh, yeah, sorry, just hold a wee second there. We're going to ask Councillor McLary he will be put into the lobby here, just having declared an interest. He may well have just removed himself from the meeting, actually. I don't see him. We're still there yet? Oh, yeah, it's just further down yet. He's under. Yeah. I think we're okay now, so we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we're okay to proceed then. Thank you.
okay, members, so application number 3, LA 10 2024-0397. It's a full application consisting of a section 54 application to vary condition numbers 2 and 3 relating to the access of planning application LA 10 2020-1114, which is a full application for a storage shed and retail outlet building for the sale of coal, gas and firewood. The applicant then is CBD, and the location then you can see on the Enniskillen Road in Ballymallard. The recommendation is to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report and subject to 2 reasons. So I'll just take you through the details then, members. So the application is seeking to vary 2 conditions on a previous approval for a storage shed and retail outlet building. So the approval in question, or the original approval, if we call it that now, is LA 10 2020-1114. So this was approved in May 2022, subject to 6 conditions. You can see there on the left, this yellow star describes the proposal. So storage shed and retail outlet building for the sale of coal, gas and firewood. And the date then is on the 10th of May 2022. Subsequent to that, members, there has been another approval on the site LA 10 2024-0396, and it has varied condition 1 in relation to the sale of goods, and that was granted in November 2025. However, the application as it currently stands is relating to this this application 2020-1114. So the original application then, the left-hand image shows the granted plans, and you can see the stamp there with the red line identifying the location of the site. On the right-hand side then is a zoomed-in image just of that red line. So you can see the Enniskillen Road, then the access comes in off the Enniskillen Road up a laneway into the site. The long red lines either side of the access are the visibility displays that are required to service the access. So the original approval then, you can see the block plan on the screen, and it shows the location of the 2 buildings, Store 1 and Store 2, and the circulation and turning then around that. You also then have additional works down at the road where the laneway joins the junction of the public road. Well, just an aerial image, members, for further reference. So you can see the Enniskillen Road on the right-hand side. The access then comes in and runs up the laneway to the site of the application. As part of that original approval, the access had to be improved, and you can see there on the screen the block plan of what was approved. So the in and out arrangement is shown on the screen. So if you can imagine, you're coming down the left-hand side of the road and you have to then pull into the right. If you're coming down the laneway to pull out, you would come down the laneway, slide over to the left slightly, and then turn left to go out again. So an in-out arrangement. So just to take you through the details of that plan, you can see number 1 there is the existing lane edge. Number 2 then proposes to remove the existing hedge along the laneway and provide a new hedge as shown. So you can see the black dotted line would be the existing laneway. That'll be moved over, the lane widened out to 6 metres, and a new hedge planted along the side. Number 3 then, you can see then the existing lane to be widened out for the 6 metres for the first 20 metres. 4 then is to provide a 6 metre radius to the town side as shown. And 5 then is turning around the site for small vehicles, rigid road vehicles. So that's the laneway. And you can see the Enniskillen Road and the public road. You come off the public road onto the existing concrete laneway. The proposed improvements then were in the area where the yellow line is, the yellow arrow. And you can see the widening of the laneway was meant to have occurred in that area there. None of that has happened, and the application today is seeking to vary that approval so they don't have to do that. So to say, the original approval was granted subject to 6 conditions. Conditions 2 relate to the widening of the lane, and condition 3 is the visibility displays. So condition 2 is seeking to vary it. So the top in the green box is what's required as part of the approval. So within 6 weeks of the date of the decision, the existing lane should be widened out to a minimum of 6 metre wide for the first 20 metres, from where the laneway meets the Enniskillen Road, and a 6-metre turning radius provided in accordance with the drawing 03. And the reason for that is road safety. The application proposes to vary the wording of the condition, and you can see then the condition is suggested as removing the first bit, which is the time within 6 weeks of the date of this decision that would be removed. The condition then would say the existing lane shall be retained for site access. The existing outbuilding marked in blue in the site location plan shall be demolished within 4 weeks of the date of this approval. And the remainder then would be all removed. And the reason for that is in the interest of road safety. Condition 3 then relates to visibility displays. So this required visibility displays of 2.4 by 81.4 metres to be provided within 6 weeks of the original decision. And the applicant wishes to change that to just say 2 by 81.4. So changing from 2.4, that 2.4 is, if you imagine, members, you're standing at the road edge and you step back in 2.4 metres up the laneway. What they're proposing to do is only you have to move back 2 metres, and then the visibilities will start off from that 2 metres instead of 2.4. So it reduces the angles of the triangles and the views looking up and down the sides of the road. So condition 3 then states within 6 weeks of the date of this decision, visibility displays of 2.4 by 81.4 shall be provided in both directions in accordance with drawing 03, received 19th of March 21, and shall be maintained in both directions. And the reason is road safety. So in terms of the proposed variation, it'll say the existing visibility displays of 2.0, that would be, times 81.4 metres shall be maintained in both directions. So essentially, members, what's on the ground will be retained, and there'll be no improvements required in terms of visibility. The reason for that then is road safety. So just go back to the original plan then, members. What they're proposing to do is to remove a lot of the required improvements. So the existing laneway then would be retained as it is, which would be 1 vehicle wide. You'd come down to the public road, and there wouldn't be room for 2 vehicles to access in off the public road and pass as you leave the road or anything like that. So the laneway would essentially stay as it currently is. So as members, just to be clear on what's proposed in condition 2 seeks to retain the development without providing any improvements, and condition 3 is the same. So just some street view images then, members. So this is the approach then towards the application site, and you can see then the views towards the access on the left there, and that's the red arrow. So if you're coming along on the left-hand side of the road, you're approaching up towards the entrance, and then you would turn into the entrance. So you can see vehicles already doing that, and they're turning across the footpath and the area beside the entrance in order to gain access. From the opposite direction then, from the town side, if you're coming out, you're on the left-hand side of the road and you're travelling down the road. The access is then on the right-hand side. As you move along, you can see, members, there, a laneway on the right-hand side. And then you'd have to travel up the laneway. So the issues, members, are in relation to road safety. You can see on the left, members, there's an area of tarmac to hard standing. That's not within the applicant's control. That's third party. As you can see, there's a dwelling, previously a dwelling in there, and that was the access into their house. And indeed, members, there's a street view image with a car parked on it, which I think would significantly inconvenience vehicles travelling up and down the laneway. So as part of the supporting statement, members, the argument is being presented that the applicant will has a former workshop on the site, and that former workshop would attract vehicle movements to the site, and they're proposing to give that up in substitution for the new business, that the sale of coal and fuel business. So you're swapping the business that would have been in the blue for the existing business. On the plans, you can see there the approval at the time, the 2020 approval included the detailed former workshop with a yellow star on it, and that's the building in question. So it's essentially and I know the speakers will go through this in their speaking rights, essentially what the supporting consultant is saying is by reducing the industrial floor space on the lane, the traffic using the lane will return to baseline traffic use on the lane. In this scenario, the need for alterations to the lane does not arise, and as there is no intensification of use. That baseline use is a mix of car and HGV use, i.e. the same mix of traffic associated with the fuel distribution business. Whilst the applicant wishes to retain the industrial unit for ancillary use to the dwelling, which is occupied by his parents, if the council require the unit to be removed, that will definitely reduce the industrial floor space accessed via this laneway. In terms of the supporting information from the consultant, this is the baseline in their view. So you have the existing uses up the laneway, and you can see then on the right-hand side, it lists all of those and it goes through them all. So you have a dwelling and outhouse at 10 road trips per day. That would be accepted for the typical vehicle movements to a dwelling. Goes through then, and number 7, you can see is the existing industrial building, woodworking unit. Apologies, members. Sorry. 83 trips per day. You then go on to the next slide, which is the summary of permitted use. And that's 98 trips per day. And now that is calculated by you can see number 7 is the existing industrial building. And then they've added on the fuel business warehouse, which is the current use at 15 trips per day. And that gives a total of 98 trips per day. So the suggestion in the supporting statement is that building 7 then has been used as a woodworking unit. That business is no longer operating from the site. Obviously, the shed remains. This has the potential to increase or generate traffic. So what the applicant is proposing to do is cease the use of that as an industrial use. And you can see there at number 7, there are no trips generated by that building. And therefore, the number of trips along the laneway returns to 83. So essentially, from the original baseline to the proposed trips, there'll be no variation. It will remain at 83. Building in question then, members, this is a photograph just taken this morning of the building. You can see in red there and the barn at the back of it. Inside then is it's a variety of uses, but it would appear to be used for the storage of materials currently being sold within the wider business. So you have the coal and fuel, etc., and other items in there. So it's currently being used for uses ancillary to the existing business. It's not being used as a woodworking shed and would have a storage use ancillary to the existing business. In terms of our policy members, so you have TR01 as the relevant policy. We permit proposals where it's demonstrated that it meets the 4 criteria. Within the clarification, then you've got additional comment on the policy, and it does talk then about the intensification. It does say where a new access is created or the use of an access is intensified, good visibility is essential for the safety of all road users. Developers are required to provide requisite visibility displays under their control, which are retained free from obstruction. Applicants should refer to the current published guidance, so that's DCAN 15 vehicle access standards, which sets out the standards for sightlines, radii, gradients, etc. that will be applied. In the event where a proposal is for the replacement of a similar use and has a substandard access and does not meet current standards, consideration should be given to the potential to incorporate improvements in the interests of road safety. So we're looking DCAN 15 members. Now this comes to the crux of the issues, and I know the agent will refer to this in their speaking rights. So paragraph 1.2, a well-designed access is important for the safety and convenience of all road users, those proceeding on public road as well as those using the access. So when the department considers proposals for a new access or the intensification of use of an existing access, it will normally have a number of requirements to promote safety and avoid excessive delay, as indicated in PBS 3. That has been replaced by our plan strategy. Nonetheless, the DCAN is still relevant and material, and it says at the end there, intensification is considered to occur when a proposed development would increase the traffic flow using an access by 5% or more. You'll see from the report, members, the view of officers is that intensification does occur, and it's not a simple like-for-like swap. Just in relation to that historical business, there is no CLUD and no certificate of lawfulness for it. So we don't have any certificate demonstrating that that business was lawful. It has also ceased, and the use of the building has changed to storage uses, so it's no longer there and hasn't been for some time. In terms then of the roads comments, roads are a consultee, statutory consultee. However, this is a decision for members and the council to make. Roads have advised that planning and the council should ensure they're satisfied with the information contained in the application form and the traffic assessment prepared by MRI Partnership, and the use of the access will not be increased by more than 5% as stated in DCAN 15. In the case of intensification, then the road improvements will be required. So members, hopefully that explains the position, and the report sets it out well as well. For the reasons listed within the report, the proposal doesn't accord with the LDP for 2 reasons.
Okay, thank you, Darren. We do have speaking rights in respect of this application. I have Chris Beatty, the applicant, in person in support of the application. Also Carol Johnston, planning consultant, in support of the application, and Richard Agus, traffic consultant, in support of the application. So we'll invite you all to come forward to my left here, and hopefully I have got all your names right. You can correct me if I haven't. There's just 3 seats here on the left, and as per our planning protocol, we attribute 10 minutes to this part of the meeting. So I will provide an update when we reach 9 minutes. But between yourselves, if you can sort of work out who speaks for how long, and just introduce yourselves and to go along in your own time, you know. You're very welcome. There is a clicker there for the presentation there, just on the, yeah, that's it there. Just do you want to advance it?
Okay. Good afternoon, members. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee today. My name is Cara Johnston from Grabus Planning, and I am the agent for this application. I'm here today alongside Chris Beatty, the applicant, and Richard Agus, a traffic consultant from MRA Partnership, seeking your support to approve this planning application. In summary, the issue for consideration under this application is whether intensification of the lane has occurred as a result of Mr. Beatty's fuel sale business operating on the lane since 2019. If there is no intensification, there are no grounds to request improvements to the lane and its splays, and the application can be approved. At present, the council is not accepting that the traffic movements associated with building number 7, referred to as the woodworking unit, can be included in the trip usage figures of the lane, as it ceased being used for this purpose in 2013, and neither planning permission or a CLUD has been granted. This is despite the building having been used for light industrial purposes for more than 50 years, as confirmed by statutory declaration. The council also considers that there would be less traffic movements arising from light industrial use of the building compared to fuel sales, which they consider will lead to an intensification of lane use. The council's consideration does not, however, take account the fact that Mr. Beatty first started operating his fuel sales business out of building number 7 in 2019. Whilst in 2020, additional sheds were erected to conduct the primary operations of the business, building number 7 was retained as part of the business over this time to provide additional storage and remains in use by CB Fuels to this day. In order to ensure that no intensification of the lane will arise from the new buildings, Mr. Beatty is proposing to demolish number 7 under this application. This history of occupation clearly demonstrates that the site and surrounding area has long-standing light industrial and commercial uses. Each of the businesses involved significant vehicle and freight movements along the laneway in question, which has been utilised safely over a period of over 50 years without the need for any changes to the lane widening or visibility space. Chris is trying to provide an affordable service to the local community, the majority of his products which are delivered to customers' doors and the remainder are collected at the site. I'll now pass over to Mr. Agus to explain in more detail why no intensification of the lane occurs.
Thank you, Cara, and good afternoon, members. This established business is located on a typical country lane, of which there are hundreds in this council area. The original application for the shed sought lane improvements under the perception that intensification would arise and the access was unsafe. In the 6+ years that the business has been operating from this new shed, no one is reporting any collisions. So whilst danger may have been perceived, there hasn't been any actual harm. DFI Roads have been consulted and they are not reporting any specific road safety concerns. The lane serves a mix of agricultural sheds, housing and other commercial buildings, uses that will continue irrespective of the decision made today. This includes the industrial buildings where the business began. Those businesses are identified as number 7 on the screens, which you can see. This is where CB Fuels began, but prior to this, those sheds were used to manufacture furniture. As part of the application process, we were calculating the traffic based on the authorised development on the lane and to see how that would change once CB Fuels was added. Those calculations confirmed that there would be intensification if the new building was retained in addition to the existing uses. However, we demonstrated that there was no intensification once the buildings at number 7 were demolished. DFI Roads have reviewed those calculations and the methodology and aren't disputing them. In the absence of intensification, then there is no requirement for the lane improvements. But the lane's not, the current lane does have this good visibility. At 2.4 by over 81 meters whenever you're measuring from the running edge rather than the curb. And that's the DCAN 15 requirement. Some time ago, there was a solid white line that was out from the curb more than a foot. Now, that has become worn off and wasn't replaced when the road was resurfaced. But nonetheless, on a wide road such as Enniskillen Road, cars don't drive bouncing in and out of the gutter, bounce out of the gullies. They drive at least a foot out from the road and therefore are visible to vehicles exiting this lane. The lane's actually got better visibility than further down the road at Drummery Court. And Drummery Court serves 20 dwellings and farmland, and planning permission has been sought for a further 19 dwellings along that road, and there's been no concerns about the safety of accessing Enniskillen Road, where the visibility is poorer than the lane under discussion today. Since concluding our calculations, CB Fuels have scaled back their activity on the lane. They were operating from a yard at number 4 on the drawn, but that activity is no longer occurring. That building at number 4 was once a bakery, therefore the lane has had regular HGV activity. So in terms of progressing this positively, there's a number of mitigations available to you. Despite the long-established commercial uses on the lane, the objectors have raised concerns about large vehicles entering and leaving. This has now reduced now that Yard 4 is no longer in use by the applicant. This location is now for domestic collections only. The bulk deliveries to the site are by a single flatbed truck, and that could be conditioned to be outside of busier times, for example, only between 9:30 and 4:30, thus avoiding peak times. In terms of number 7, we have accepted that that would need to be demolished to demonstrate that there is no intensification of use. So again, that's what's in front of you this afternoon, and to be conditioned as you see appropriate. And back to Cara to finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. To summarise, the vehicle trips generated from Building 7, which has been used by CB Fuels since 2019 to the present day, can be included in the baseline traffic trips for the lane. With Building 7 demolished as proposed, there will be no intensification of the use of the lane. As the existing visibility displays are sufficient, upgrades are not necessary and planning approval can be granted. Thank you, members, for listening to our submission, and we make ourselves available to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and well within the 10 minutes. And apologies, Mr. Higgis, I got your name wrong. At least I didn't ask you to sing. That happens to me all the time. So I'm just going to invite a question. Darren has a question for yourselves as well.
Apologies, members, and forgive I know we normally don't do this, but during the speaking rights there, I just need to clarify, there was a comment made about number 4 on that slide, that there's no storage in the yard at number 4. I was at the site this morning and there was storage at that. There was lorries parked there as well.
Yeah, his lorry was parked there, but when I was out, 18 months or so ago, that yard was full of bags of logs and things like that there. So that element of it has shifted because he no longer has that lease to use those lands.
But there was vehicles and stuff stored on it this morning when I was there. So you can't say it hasn't been, it has been discounted and stopped being used when it is being used.
It's not being used for the storage of the wood, but yes, Mr. Beatty's flatbed truck was parked on it this morning. I was out before lunchtime. I think you were up earlier this morning. So I agree that he had parked a vehicle on it, but he's not using that as a in the same way that he was last time I had been on the site when he had leased that land from the owner and was using it. And at the time he was forklifting across the yard, and that was causing upset to the residents. And he stopped doing that, forklifting back. But I accept that he does park his vehicle on it. That's correct.
Okay. And just a second question, apologies, members. In terms of then of the The fourth bullet point there, you said the current access is 2.4 by 81.4 visibility displays, yet you're planning to reduce that down to 2.0 by 81.4 in the application. So why is the application in with us if displays have 2.4 by 81.4?
The drawings would have been put in at the time. They were measured to the curb line. And I'm simple, 2.4 by 80 is available when you're measuring to the running edge, which would be further out from the curb line, but it's probably correct and to be the drawings were previously put in at 2.4 by 80 to the curb line. So that's why I say if we reduce it to 2 by 80 to the curb line, then that's sort of overcoming that. But I guess the key thing about a visibility display is you can see what's coming down the road, and if the cars aren't driving in at the curb end, if vehicles aren't driving in at the curb, you can then see them clearly from the 2.4 back. But again, I can see the question when you were realizing I'm saying that you can see that visibility. It's what's available on the ground versus what's on the plan.
Can I just confirm that? Are you still applying to change it down to 2 by? And you're also saying that the current access has 2.4, but you still want to go down to 2?
I do think we need to apply to have it down to 2, because that's if you were on the plan had been put in on the basis of you measuring to the curb line, and it is 2 by 80 to the curb line.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions for our speakers? Councillor McGrath, go ahead there.
Thank you for your presentation. It's just regarding the road safety at the bottom of the lane, and the vacant site does not use the lane. How do you plan to widen the lane? You know, who owns the vacant site? Do you own the vacant site? You don't. So how do you go about widening the bottom of the lane or for road safety if
We're just into the microphone there. Great, thanks.
This is for applying now, you know, it cannot widen the lane because we don't own that side.
The widening had originally been done to, if you were looking at the lane, the widening was originally be done on the right-hand side. It's the left-hand side which is vacant, and but neither of those properties are Mr. Brady's control.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? We have we do have some members online. I don't see anyone indicating. We also have DFI Roads represented online as well. Patrick Murray, isn't that right? Yeah. But I don't see anyone else indicating at this stage. In that case, I would thank you all for taking the time to speak to the committee, and you could return to the public gallery. Thank you. An opportunity for any further comments from officers at this point, or any? Go ahead, Darren. Sorry.
I was happy to take questions, but just to be clear, members, normally it's a case of people are coming along and saying that intensification hasn't occurred because the use hasn't intensified the laneway. In this case here, the use has intensified the laneway, and all parties accept that. What is being suggested though is that another use is being given up, and that takes the intensification out so that the baseline remains the same. And that's what's before you today. You'll note within the report, members, and in the speaking rights as well, planning officers are not of the view that it will return to the original baseline. There's no certificate of lawfulness for that original woodworking business. The building that the woodworking business was in, the woodworking business ceased in 2013. And since 2019, it's been used for the storage of the fuel products. So there's nothing to give up. Giving up, there's no use there that you can give up. So this suggestion that they'll cease the use to balance everything out is a hypothetical situation that doesn't exist on the ground. saw from the photographs, the shed's currently being used for the storage of coal and fuel products, etc. So there's nothing to give up here. So intensification will occur. Where intensification occurs, those standards are required, and roads have advised us that's the relevant standards that should be provided on the ground.
Councillor McGrath.
Here, we have access to DFA roads on this.
We
subject.
do. We have Mr. Patrick Murray from DFA Roads. That's right.
Just wondering, would he have any input on this, or, could we ask him what, but the road safety and safety displays? Just to hear. what he-
Okay,
yes.
we can indeed, yeah. Just before we do that, sorry. Oh, yeah, Seamus Logan as well, sorry, from DFA, Seamus Logue as well. So Seamus or Patrick, either could maybe respond to that if possible.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson, and hello, councillors. Response dated 18th May 2024. DFA Roads had sent a response back to planning that they should ensure that they're satisfied with the information that was provided in the traffic assessment, and that the intensification is not more than 5% as stated in DCAN 15, which was as part of the PowerPoint. If there is seen to be intensification, then the previous conditions should be applied. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murray, yeah. Any further questions for officers or for DFA Roads at this point? And I suppose I would ask that we maybe move on to the members' debate and towards a member's decision, really. Any further advice can be sought at this point. Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead there.
Chair, I propose that we go with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, Councillor. So we have a proposal on the table. We have no seconder at this point. Still an opportunity for any questions. Councillor Maguire, go ahead. sir.
Gormagan Carney, I'm minded to second the proposal by Councillor O'Reilly, given the fact that both reasons relate to road safety. Gormagan Carney, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, so we do have a proposal, and supported the officer's recommendation by Thomas O'Reilly, Councillor O'Reilly, and seconded by Councillor Maguire. Is all members in agreement? No, Councillor Alan Rainey is not in agreement with that. And we'll make a note of that, Councillor. And Councillor Bernard McGrath. And Councillor Earl Thompson is not in agreement. And Councillor Robinson, I think we're going to ask for a show of hands here at this point. And sorry, Councillor Mahan, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to state my objection to that as well. Just that's what I was doing there.
Okay. Councillor McElduff, go ahead there.
Having not been present for the whole discussion, I will not be voting consistent with
That's
the
okay.
position. Yep.
That's 5 against. So I'll ask for a show of hands in favour. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands then in favour of that proposal at this point. for clarity. That's 5 in favor. Yeah, okay. So that the decision is that the application is refused in respect to the cast and vote. So I'd ask Darren to summarize the recommendation or the decision, sorry.
Okay, members, so application number 3, LA 10 2024-0397, recommendation of officers was to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report, subject to 2 reasons. Members have refused planning permission for those 2 reasons.
Thank you, Darren. Moving on then to application number 4, and that's LA 10 2025-0914. An outline application. I'm going to ask Darren to take us through that application. It's related to the other application as well, but Darren will explain.
So members, just in relation to application number 4, LA 10 2025-0914, it's an outline application for proposed infill dwelling and garage by Mr. Teague on the White Bridge Road. The recommendation is to refuse planning permission. You'll note from the papers, members, that application number 5 is also from Mr. Teague for an infill dwelling on the White Bridge Road as well. So the recommendation is to refuse it as well. Just in relation to app number 4, members, you can see on the screen there, it's the site outlined in red, and it's adjacent to number 154. The application is accompanied by a concept plan which shows 2 dwellings in a gap with the site in question above number 154. The recommendation then is to refuse that application for the reasons listed within the report. Application number 5 then is also, as I say, for an infill dwelling by Mr. Teague on the White Bridge Road. And
Sorry, Darren, I just need to do one thing. Councillor McLahary, was he brought back into the meeting? I don't think. Is he present? Well, you say he is present, yeah. Okay, and he has been present. Okay, apologies. I just seen a wee note on the screen there from IT. It's an old one. Thank you.
So just the number, application number 5, members, is LA 10 2025-0915. Again, it's an application for an infill dwelling by Mr. Teague, and that's the site location plan there. You can see it's the upper part of the field, so it's beside number 158. It also includes a concept plan, which is the same concept plan with the other application. And the recommendation then is to refuse for the reasons within the report and subject to the 4 reasons. Members, this has happened before, and you'll recall that Philip was agreeable to the 2 applications being heard at the same time, given they're the same applicant, the same field, same location, same issues. So if members are agreeable, I would propose that we just pull the 2 together and allow the presentation to cover both applications. Unless there's any objections to that. I think the agent's agreeable to that as well. So okay.
Great, yeah.
So just to go on then to go through then, so the applications then show you where they are, members. So just go through the reasons for refusal. You'll note in the report there. So reason 1 is adverse visual impact cannot be visually integrated into the surrounding landscape. So there's a Google Street View image of the location of the field. You can see the building on the left then, and then our field is the field in front of you, running all the way down the road. Once you get down to the bottom of the road, there's a laneway beside the existing house, and that's just a view then looking back up again. The reason 2 then is not a small gap suitable to accommodate only 2 dwellings. So you can see in the plan then, if we start over on the left at the red star, building number 1 is number 158. Building number 2 then is another building then on its own curtilage. You have the laneway then, and you've got the 2 sites, site 1, site 2, and then building 3 is number 154. So the agents provided their estimates of the curtilages. So if we start over on the left on 158, you can see it's about 32 meters. Building 2 then 16 meters. You then have site 1 at 52 meters, site 2 at 52 meters, and then building 3 is about 43 meters. So when we look at that on the ground, members, because it's important to look at the physical aspects of the site rather than just a simple mathematical equation. You can see then the area of buildings along this stretch of the road. I would agree with the agent that it's in between those 2 red lines. And you can see the buildings either side of the site. The yellow star then is the location of where the houses are proposed. So we start then some critical views, members. Over on the right-hand side, you can see the red star. If you're in front of that building and looking into the site, that's the view then on a street view image. So that's the building then at the end. Our site then is the field over to the right-hand side. adjacent to that house. And you can see then the road runs on down to the next building. So just walk down, that's the field. And when you get to the bottom of the field, you can see then the other two buildings. So they do have two separate cartilages. So there are three buildings on a line along the road. Turning then in the opposite direction, just traveling back up the White Bridge Road. So this is heading towards the building on the right hand side. You can see the hedge, and then that's the bungalow. You can pass the bungalow, you have the shed then beside it, and our site then is the field beyond that. And again, just another image of the field. Well, members, the applications for an infill dwelling. So the infill then is filling the gap between the buildings and filling the field. In between the buildings is approximately 122, 123 metres. And when you do the calculations then, provided even by the applicant, of the curtilages nearby, the two proposed sites are well in excess of the widths of those nearby plots. And again, members, when you take those plot sizes of nearby houses and put in a similar settlement pattern, there's clearly room for 3 on the site. And again, members, it's that same issue we had last month. So room for 3 on the site. So it's not a small gap. In terms then of reasons 3 and 4, result in suburban style build up, respect the traditional settlement pattern, create a rhythm of development and build up. Clearly the development of this building, so these buildings in this field will result in the loss of the green field and create a line of buildings from the building 1, 2 and 3 then at the bottom, which will also impact on the rural character of the area by reason of a build up of development. Remember to say the two applications then are presented together, they both raise the same issues. Application number 4 is 914, application number 5 is 915, and the recommendation is to refuse both.
Okay, members, we do have speaking rights in respect of both applications. I suppose it's anticipated that the one speaking rights would cover both. We attribute 10 minutes for this part of the meeting. So I'd invite Mr. Turlough Gourley forward, and you're very welcome. And in your own time, just go ahead. I'll let you know when we reach 9 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, members. Yes, I don't particularly.
That's right. And just to clarify, you do have speaking rights for both, so potentially you can go up to 20 minutes. Then.
Well, I was just about to say that I don't intend to take the 10 minutes for both. I would hope to keep it concise and save the members' time. Yeah, thanks, Chair and members. Yeah, I suppose I don't think there's any doubt that it meets the criteria in terms of CTY8, in terms of the conditions for reviewing whether or not it's infill. It's sited between 3 buildings, each with their own curtilage and entrance. They're separate entities. And I suppose it comes down to what Darren had said as to whether or not it's a gap sufficient only to accommodate a maximum of 2 dwellings. That's what the policy says. The policy is less strenuous in terms of measurements of frontages. It talks about plot sizes rather than measuring plot frontages. So the policy would say that it's reflective of the plot size rather than the frontage measurement. So from our perspective, we would be differing from the planner officer in that regard in terms of what it actually says in the policy under CTY8 ribbon development. And on that basis, the plot sizes are generally roughly the same. So from an applicant's perspective, it meets the criteria in terms of being a gap between 3 buildings, each with their own curtilage. And then it comes down to whether or not the plot sizes reflect what's there on the ground and not necessarily the frontage widths. The policy doesn't actually say that. It talks about provided this respects the existing development pattern along the frontage in terms of size, scale, siting and plot size and meets other planning and environmental requirements. So there's nothing in there to say that you have to have a plot frontage that's exactly the same or close to, say, 5-10 metres off the existing plot. That said, the 2 plot frontages are not a million miles off the lengths of the other plot frontages, but that does not say they cannot be bigger. It talks about plot sizes rather than frontages. And from our perspective, the plot sizes would be reflective, particularly of the house at 154, I think it is, the house standing on its own. Not necessarily, obviously, the shed is smaller, but and then the other house is a slightly smaller plot, but still within that same range. In terms of the other issues, in terms of integration, PPS 21 encourages buildings to be located within or cluster with or located amongst other buildings. So this would satisfy that criteria in terms of integration, and CTY 13 does allow, sorry, and I'm reading through the other policy, but I'm referring also to the plan strategy. The plan strategy also refers to integration with other buildings and things like that. So from my perspective, it meets the criteria set out in the plan strategy in terms of plots and things like that. Okay, members, thank you.
Okay, well, within the time limit, there is an opportunity for any questions. So for the agent at this point. Councillor McElduff, you're indicating. Or aye.
Again, it's a very basic question to ask Turla. How does this application or these applications meet HOU 13 as an infill? And it might be inviting you to restate some of your points, but ultimately that's the test seemingly in front of us. You know, does it meet HOU 13 as an infill? So the recommendation is that it doesn't meet that policy requirement, but you're saying that it does?
Yeah. Well, look, if we look at HO 13, it says that infilling will be permitted within a line of buildings where the proposed site is a small gap suitable to accommodate only 2 dwellings within an otherwise substantial and continuously built up frontage, which will not detract from the rural character. For the purposes of this policy, a substantial and continuously built up frontage is a line of at least 3 buildings with their own defined curtilage, which we had alluded to. The proposed site falls within that line of at least 3 buildings with each with their own defined curtilage, and can be ascertained from the concept plan that the applications meet the criteria on the ground. So the policy isn't that prescriptive. I suppose it's a judgment call on terms of how that sits. So from my perspective, there isn't anything in the policy that says that it fails that aspect. Does that answer your question?
Chair, because I took these notes when I read the report here. Adverse impact was mentioned, I think, adverse impact. So what is it about the character of that area from the point of view of vegetation or topography that allows this to take place?
Well, look, it's a particular type of area. The Whitebridge Road's quite an open landscape. So I suppose development has to reflect the existing pattern of development in the area. And there is development in that area. So there, you will expect to see it to be more visible. Having said that, as I said earlier on, sorry, I released the wrong policy. I started off wrongly. In terms of integrating buildings and what the plan strategy says, that you should cluster with existing buildings to try and mitigate the impact. So if you have a visual impact there already, the plan strategy says that you should try and integrate all the buildings with that. Also on the ground, we have existing field boundaries and hedgerows. We have the vegetation around the existing dwellings and buildings that are there already. There's some good vegetation around the shed and the house grouping there. There is proposals to landscape the rear of the site. It would be proposed to retain as much vegetation along the frontage of the site as possible. So the principle behind infill is that when you're driving along or passing along that road, that you will read other buildings, that gap between there. If there were buildings there, would they be overly noticeable as opposed to a building standing on a field on its own? And that's where the plan strategy allows to accommodate some development in the countryside in certain circumstances. And I believe this is one circumstance where it should be allowed to accommodate that development. There has to be some rural housing in the countryside, and this is one of the opportunities to do it. There are limited opportunities, and this is one of the opportunities. And I think that's where members should bear that in mind in terms of the objectivity in terms of allowing some rural development in the area. If it's grouped with other buildings, the proposed dwellings in all likelihood will be single-story dwellings because of the dwellings either side of that and be reflective of that. So from my perspective, two modest-sized single-story bungalows within those line of 3 buildings isn't going to be significantly detrimental to the rural character.
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just clarify a little bit of your thinking on 2 aspects of it? One, you go away from the measurement of the frontage to the plot sizes. And if you look at 154 plot, and then you look at your 2 proposed plots are definitely bigger. So even in that calculation, can you give me some understanding of your thinking there? And then the last reason there for refusal is the site's an important visual break, and the 2 sites will result in a suburban style of build-up. Can you give me some of your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There's 3 points there essentially. The first one in terms of plot size, there's nothing in the policy says they have to be identical in size. They could be slightly larger, slightly smaller. I suppose it's a visual assessment on the ground. Would 2 houses in there have a significant detrimental impact on the rural character of the area? In terms of accommodation of development, the plan is favourable to try to shoehorn buildings in between buildings, and that's for obvious reasons, to cluster them, and then there's already a visual commitment on the landscape there. Sorry, what's the second point in terms of?
Just a suburban style.
Yeah. And I suppose the fact that the plan strategy allows for accommodation of effectively 5 buildings in a row does not necessarily say that 5 buildings in a row would be detrimental to suburban area. If this was a gap of 150 metres, it would quite clearly accommodate at least 3 dwellings, but it's not. It's a gap of around 100 metres. You have buildings either side. I think one of them's 45. So you have buildings either side with roughly the same curtilage. And then, sorry, the third point.
I only had ever 2.
All right, okay. So
you included 3.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further indications there at this point for the agent? That's our only opportunity really to. I don't see anyone else indicating at this point, so I might thank you for your representation and return to the gallery. Thank you. Sorry, Darren, you want?
No, just happy to take any questions, members.
Go ahead, Councillor McAuliffe.
Yep. Suppose, again, a basic question. How would our planning officer respond to the points made by Turla, by Mr. Gurney there? You know, for example, you know, the whole size of the plot it's not 150 metres, it's 100. There's a suggestion that it could only accommodate 2, not 3. And, you know, the points about it can be marginally bigger than the adjacent plot or whatever, you know, that it's not in the policy determining that it cannot be larger. So suppose those points that Mr. Gurley made would definitely beg a response.
Yep, happy to respond to those, members. If I go back just to the presentation. So the infill policy, the rounding off policy and infill policy HU 13 is designed to facilitate new development in the countryside, new houses in the countryside. So the agent is correct in that, and this council does approve houses as infill opportunities in the countryside. In HU 13, though, there are a number of criteria that must be met. And when you look on the screen, members, you'll see one of those criteria is that it must be a small gap. So the gap is between the buildings. So I know the agent referred to 100 metres, but when you measure it out, it's about 122, 123, somewhere about that between the buildings. If you look then of the field itself, the field's frontage must be 52 and 52, so that's 104. But it's the gap between the buildings that is the key thing and the important thing here, members. So it's not 100 metres, it's 122. In terms then of the the room for the other plots within the site. The policy then, and the clarification, it assists with what the policy is trying to do. So it's the positioning of an additional dwelling within an existing group of buildings has a potential benefit of reinforcing locally distinctive settlement patterns and local identity without detracting from rural character. So the first question then is, what is the locally distinctive settlement pattern? In this case here, it's road frontage dwellings, and that's the local settlement pattern. However, those road frontage dwellings, when you look at the plot sizes of those, they are significantly smaller than what is proposed. You can see the garden areas around the houses themselves are much smaller in comparison to the two proposed sites. The two proposed sites are two bungalows, which is fine. That'll be reflective of the local character, but they've got big suburban gardens around them, which is completely out of character with the buildings either side of it. And that's where the issue then in terms of what the impact on the locally distinctive settlement pattern is and the character is. When you look at the gap between the buildings, it's back to this argument that I've had frequently with the agents, and we've had before the committee many times now. When you look at the plot sizes and use a rule of thumb running up the road, what width are the adjacent plots and how many houses can you put in the gap? And when you do that, as I say, it's not a mathematical equation, it's what's a rule of thumb. Look at them. You have room for 3 clearly, and still allowing the laneway then can be retained. So it's very difficult to get past that argument. If we could, as planning officers, we wouldn't be sitting here today. The approach we're taking as officers here and giving you advice is consistent with other applications that have come forward before you. And that was made, I did let the agent know that. So that's the key issue, I think, before members today. And if there's a debate on that, then I can assist members with the other reasons, if that assists you. But going forward, there's room for 3.
Councillor Mahan, apologies. I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks everybody. Darren, could you just bring up the slide there again with the 3? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I'm just looking at that, and this is something that keeps coming up, and I think will keep coming up in front of the committee, where agents, owners have a view that there's space for 2, and maybe ourselves have a view that there's room for 3. Those red boxes that you put in for 3, like 3 bungalows, 3 dwellings, to me, it doesn't take into consideration a garage, a laneway. It just looks 3 dots, and yes, you can fit 3 in there. But if I was to lift the property to the bottom of the south of that drawing and drop it on there, I couldn't fit that in 3 times on that space. Especially when you're taking off an area at the north side for a laneway to be kept. So whilst it might look on the plan there as 3, if you actually picked up the one at the bottom and tried to set it on there 3 times, it wouldn't be possible. And as you said yourself, there's not much gardens around it, so it's not like it's an overly big one we're trying to squeeze in. So I just wonder what your view would be on that. Whereas it may look like there's 3 spaces, but if you tried to fit 3 in there with roadways and maybe a garage and a bit of space around the house, how would that look? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, happy to respond to that, Councillor. So if you read the court's judgments on this HUU 13, the idea of infilling and linked to CTY 8 and PPS 21, it's very clear the courts are saying you can't make a policy, try to do something that you wanted to do when it simply can't do it. And a reasonable approach has to be taken to infill. When you're driving along that road, what are the buildings either side of the site? That's the local context and local character. You can't take the biggest one and say, oh, I'll drop that onto the site. It has to be reflective of the local character in the area. And when you do that, as I say, a rule of thumb is as good as any. And you look at the plots either side, there's clearly room for 3. 30 meters is a commonplace plot size these days to give you room for a new dwelling, access in the garage, and plenty of amenity space at the side and also at the rear. So it is not a mass test. You don't take the biggest plot and just drop that onto the site 3 times. That is not the way the policy is written. It's not the approach of the plan strategy. The approach of the plan strategy is to reinforce locally distinctive settlement patterns. And when you're driving along that road, the locally distinctive settlement patterns are not big sites. If we go back to the concept plan, they're not big sites. Like we have 52 meters with a bungalow on it and the garage to the side and the access sweeping around them with a large garden around it. They're clearly not, and that's the difficulty with this application.
Okay, thank Councillor McElduff.
Again, in the spirit of challenge, because there are few exceptions to the policy. So, people deserve the fullest challenge because housing is in great need in that area and generally. But was it the case that the adjacent plot was 45 meters in width? And as you said, Darren, there, it's not a simple mathematical exercise, but I did my own mathematical exercise, which was if you multiply 3 by 45, to reflect the character of the area, that's like 135 meters. This is less than 135 meters. So the points that Councillor Mahan makes are very relevant as well, very strong, about if you add a garage, a laneway, an accessway. And I'm not in favour of suburban gardens in that area. And I'm sure that won't be the case, big suburban gardens. But believe it or not, in that area, I would be conscious of at least a couple of dwellings that would have that feature. And I'm not saying this should be or would be a feature of this, but I'm aware of one or two from passing that there would be large suburban gardens. And so anyway, that's that. But, we have to, give due diligence as well as councillors to people seeking houses within the few exceptions that do exist, because, some of us don't like the policy, but we operate within the policy and we think it's too restrictive. But then to narrow things down further within opportunity, within possibility, I don't think is good. So, I did my own calculation there. If the adjacent property is 45 meters, well then it definitely couldn't accommodate 3 of those. It definitely couldn't.
If I could just respond to that, Chair, if you don't mind, just if I go back to the drawing, remember, so there's a few things there. First, in terms of the policy, that's the council policy, and planners are not narrowing things down. We are operating the policy that has been agreed by the council and is in our plan strategy. We as officers routinely approve infill dwellings, and we give advice to people as well on where sites would meet and would not meet policy. So this is a consistent approach across the council. In terms of our decisions as well, that previous refusals that have gone to appeal, the PAC are supporting those decisions and saying that was the correct interpretation of policy. So there's no narrowing here. There's no differential treatment. The applications are being considered consistently and fairly. In terms then of the local character, that is the key question. What is the locally distinctive settlement pattern? So if there's 1 or 2 big gardens in the area, there's none near this. What is the locally distinctive settlement pattern? To take the site at the bottom there, 43 meters, and say that is reflective of the local settlement pattern would be, it would be stretching the policy beyond reasonableness. You have to look at what's either side of you. You have 32 meters at the top and 16 at the top. So the locally distinctive pattern is 43, 16, and 32. You could, if you wanted to work out an average of that. I don't think that's the correct approach either. But I don't think it's right then to simply say, well, 52 is within this locally distinctive settlement pattern. It's clearly above the biggest plots by 10 meters. They will result in 2 bungalows with 2 large curtilages and the gardens to the side, which is completely out of character with the surrounding area. So the final thing then is the policy is there to fill in the gap between buildings. So the gap between the buildings is 122 meters. Don't forget that, members. And if you were to take 43, you have room there for the 3 between the buildings, and that is the important thing here. But in terms of our application site, taking 52 meters as a locally distinctive settlement pattern would be stretching the policy beyond reasonableness in the view of officers.
Okay, sorry, Paul would like in as well. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I know members, some comments just about limited opportunities in the countryside, but during the plan strategy, we actually incorporated a number of additional opportunities in addition to what's already in the regional policy. One of those was the replacement of a former dwelling on the site. So there's a number of other opportunities in Fermanagh and Omagh in the countryside location to get rural dwellers over and above what's in the regional policy already. And the test, members, will be the legislation requires us, it's a plan-led system. So we have to demonstrate compliance with a plan or a policy within the plan unless material considerations dictate otherwise, members. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. And just following on from the comments of Councillor Mahon, Councillor McAduff, and the replies from Darren and Paul there, I would like to ask our Council Solicitor, Anne-Marie, has she any comments to make on the matter? Because it's a bit of a difficult one, this one, in my view. So I'd like to maybe hear Anne-Marie on it. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Okay, thanks, members. I suppose it goes back again to where the committee is to strive for your consistency approach in relation to the policies and also between similar decisions, which Darren's probably alluded to. And unless, and if you're going to depart from the recommendations from the officers, that you only do so if you can justify that by specific circumstances or new evidence. You know, the previous planning previous planning permissions, they form what we call a balance under the legislation, and that's what the judiciary has commented before in the other cases. But I suppose here, if we're talking about a departure, I would remind members to be clear that they give clear, rational, cogent reasons for that departure. Also, I would also highlight that there is a risk that if you fail to give those reasonable explanations, you have the risk that previous applicants and perhaps similar circumstances could have grounds for challenging the council in terms of any future decisions.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for the clarification required there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions at this point? Or comments? We're moving this on now, I suppose, to the sort of any further questions really and really towards a decision. Members. Councillor Maguire, go ahead.
Again, as taking the advice and the thoughts about consistency, and indeed I'm mindful of many application that was similar, and in those cases we took the position along with the officers, and I'm happy enough to recommend or to propose the recommendation of the officers, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robinson.
I second that proposal.
Okay, members. So we have a proposal on the table then by Councillor. Oh yeah, we should be clear. I suppose we're taking both applications together, so that would be in respect to both applications then. Councillor Maguire, and seconded by Councillor Robinson, and that's in support of the officer's recommendation. So I would ask, is all members in agreement? Okay. I'm going to ask for then a show of hands in support of the officer's recommendation at this point. Okay, so we have Councillor Rainey, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Robinson, and Councillor McGuire, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Rainey, yeah, Councillor Rainey as well. Online, can I check online? So Councillor McLahry is in support. Councillor Mahan, are you in support or against the recommend? Councillor Mahan is not in support. Okay, so for clarity, I'm going to ask for show of hands against the proposal at this point, just for clarity, okay? Councillor McGrath, Councillor Feely, Councillor McElduff, Councillor Devine Gallagher, and Councillor Campbell, and also Councillor Mahan. The numbers there. That was 6. Okay, thank you. Okay, members, so there's been 6 for and 6 against the application, or sorry, the proposal. So that proposal then falls with the chair. Cast and vote. Okay, so that has fallen, that proposal. So we still need to determine the application. And I can't just assume that we still need to go through the process. So if we have any further proposals in respect to the application, those can then be tabled. So that's the procedure, members. The proposal has fallen. So it was, the proposal was not carried, 6 each. Yeah. Go ahead, Paul, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, member. So the proposal to go with the officer's recommendation has obviously failed then, but there has been no, I suppose, substantial rebuttal of the reasons they actually approved the application against the officer's recommendations, member. So we would actually need to hear some detail of how this complies with policy or the reasons for why we're setting aside. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, members, don't want to rush this. But we do, I suppose we have an opportunity for further questions as well at this point. We're still deliberating on the application. Go ahead, Councillor McAuliffe.
Yep, I would ask a further question, but I think I know the answer. I think the answer to this question is no. Is there such a thing as conditioning an approval that it is 2, not 3? That's my question.
Go ahead.
So planning conditions must meet 6 tests. That sort of condition wouldn't meet the test for planning conditions. So you could add conditions about ridge height, etc., but you can't condition the number of houses to be just 2 dwellings.
Okay, but I suppose just we are dealing not hypothetically, but with the application before us. So just, I suppose if we focus on the 2 applications before us, really, for two dwellings effectively. Councillor Mahan, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm back to these three red squares again. And I struggle with this at different times. And I'm struggling again here today. It would be useful I know the officers aren't architects and design layout people, but to me it would be useful to see, what three houses would look like on there in their totality, with the exclusion of the laneway, etc. I don't know if that's something can be done, or whether it has to be set back to look at it again, or I just, looking at that house to the south, and I do take the point that you just can't look at one only. But looking at that one on the size and shape of that house, not even the site, to me is longer looking than any of those red boxes. On the house to the north is certainly no smaller than the red box, I wouldn't have thought. So I'm just wondering, maybe some guidance there, what we could see, or maybe get visual if we did defer it back or look at it. We could, maybe if we seen three on there, we would see there's plenty of space for three, or no, it's too tight, or I'm just wondering what could be done there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Sure, if anyone wishes to respond to that.
Yes, I can take that, member. So the options available to members are set out in the planning committee protocol, and this is your decision. As I say, officers here to advise you. You can approve the application with conditions, approve the amendments, or approve contrary to the officer's recommendations, and that's where you have to give sound, clear, and logical reasons for that. You can also refuse, etc., or you can defer the application or delegate it back to us, etc., or you have the hold option. In terms of this type of question, if you're looking the applicant to submit more information, then it would be a deferral today for planning officers to ask the agent to send in a plan showing three plots across there. And then officers would review that and consider that, and then the application would be taken forward then. If it's a refusal, it would go back on the weekly list. It would reappear before you then if it's called in. I have to say though, members, from a planning officer's point of view, in terms of processing times for applications, I don't think that's going to solve the problem. I'll be sitting here saying the same things, except there'll be a drawing showing what I'm saying, which will not assist the applicant. So I don't think it's the golden goose that's going to solve the problem here, members.
Okay, Councillor Devine Gallagher, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just based on what Mark was saying there, would it be better for us, well, for me, I think anyway, to maybe propose a site visit to have a look at everything, and then we, as what Mark has said, if we could, or David, sorry, David, thanks for that part. It means then we can visually see it on paper, as he says, with the three houses on, so we can see it better. So I would propose if we go for a site visit, if at all possible.
Thank you, Councillor. We have one proposal on the table, which has not been yet seconded. Any further? We do require, you're happy to second that, Councillor McAuliffe? Okay. So that's proposed a site visit then, in respect to the application by Councillor Devine Gallagher, seconded by Councillor McAuliffe. Is everyone in agreement?
Chair.
Go ahead, David. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Mahan.
Yeah, thank you. Did the proposing council also include that the architect to provide a drawing? I just wanted to clarify that was in the proposal. I would maybe like to see that as well, if possible, because it may aid in agreeing with the officer's recommendation then, or going against it, just to be useful.
Okay, would you be happy to accommodate that? And that's a drawing in respect of how how visually two houses would look in that site as opposed to
Three.
three? Three,
Yeah.
yeah, to compare three versus two, okay. If you are happy to incorporate that, then that's okay. That's everyone in agreement then?
Chair, obviously haven't proposed the recommendation.
Yeah, okay. Problem, councillor, that is noted. Thank you, members. Well, I'm going to ask Darren, and that's for both applications, just for clarity. Both applications. Ask Darren to sum up. Thank you.
Okay, members, so application number 4, LA 10 2025-914, and application number 5, LA 10 2025-0915, both being deferred for a site visit. So that'll take place and the applications will be brought back to the committee for decision. At the same time, officers will ask the agent for a plan to show 3 dwellings in the field across the site frontage.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Councillor Devine Keller, go ahead.
Could I propose that we have a comfort break, please?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can do that if everyone's agreed.
Or a volume break?
Okay. Will we come back at what time? Come back about quarter to? Yeah, but yeah. Come back here at quarter to and we'll make a start when we get everyone settled. Thank you. as well. And I think Councillor McGrath will be in the chamber shortly, but if we're kind of content, we can proceed, I think. Okay, so just to keep us moving. So item 6 on our agenda is to note the schedule of planning decisions issued in November 2025. That's paper C. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and members. Paper C then is the decisions issued in November 25. It's just a paper for noting. The schedule of the decisions are set out then in Appendix 1. I suppose it's just to note all the effort of the officers. Again, members, quite a lot of applications decided. There was 96 in total. 81 of those related to planning applications. And you can see the breakdown then in Table 1. So I think that's the highest number of decisions issued this past 3 or 4 months. So just to commend officers for all their efforts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Oh, and Councillor Thompson.
Thanks very much, Chairman.
Okay, and second by Councillor Robinson, and Paul, I believe that, so commend the team really for their ongoing work in that respect. And I believe the team was recognised, the planning team, on the 10th anniversary of the council, as well as being, the sort of the best performer. Isn't that correct? You'll have the correct title of the achievement, but I think it's important to recognise that. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, the planning department within the council got recognition at the council awards there for performance and the value, and I suppose the recognition of the contribution that planning has made to the council and all the outcomes, all the significant public outcomes and all the applications that's been approved in the timeline. So it's great recognition for the team of all the hard work, and also I suppose the work that's done in this chamber with the planning improvement programme and all, and the adoption of the LDP. So I think it's a joint effort, members, but real good recognition for the team. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think it's important to note that. Thank you. Well done. So items, go ahead, Councillor McAuliffe.
Okay, just to congratulate the team. The event took place at the Struan Arts Centre, and it was another recognition for the team in terms of performance. So everybody was well dressed, there was an anticipation that it might go that direction, you wouldn't know.
That's good.
Thank you.
And I wonder, are you praising yourself a bit in this because we were part of the planning and all that? And someone told me one time there's nothing more humble than the truth. So I think we'll use that maybe at this point. Okay, so item 7 then is to note the update report on planning enforcement for November 25 at paper D.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So paper D, members, again, it's just for noting, and it relates to planning enforcement activity then during November. Again, members, I think there's good activity in the enforcement team, and I think that's been helped by the enforcement strategy, and also then one of the staff coming back filling those vacancies. So a lot of work been done by Seamus and Colin and Michelle. So 5 enforcement notices were served in November 25, members. The details are set out there. In terms of caseload update, then 25 cases were closed and 17 new cases opened. So the enforcement total caseload sits at 213 members. So I think that's the lowest caseload now in 3 or 4 months. So I think the enforcement strategy is certainly helping. And we're getting those cases progress more efficiently in accordance with that enforcement strategy. So I suppose something else just to note, members, and you can see it in the bar graphs, and I know Councillor Riley likes to see the bar graphs for the comparison of the trends, and it's good. So you can see the trend increasing in the cases closed, but there is a gradual trend of cases being opened. So there's a lot of cases still being opened and an increasing number. So enforcement is becoming more contentious, members. So just to note that, but thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Devine Gallagher, go ahead.
I'll propose a note to note.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor O'Reilly.
Second the noting, Chair, and just to say thank you to Paul and the team for those bar graphs. I think it's very visually easily seen the trends that are there, and I think taking a snapshot of 1 month on month is very, very hard to track, and to be able to do it in this way is very good. And at some point there, Chair, it would also be good just to see what the years track, being able to track it right across the year and sort of show where we are, because I think it's a good news story, and I think we are doing the right things and being able to put the emphasis where it's needed. And I think it's good that we as committee members know that and can see that. I think it's also very important that the public can see that as well.
Thank you indeed. So that's been noted, members. And item 8 is to note an update report on planning committee actions from July 25 to October 25. And that's paper E. And Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So paper E, members, then that's committee actions from July to October, and again, it's just for noting. So you can see the breakdown in the table then, members. So there's roughly about 100 actions, and those are mostly all complete. I think there's just one outstanding action, and that's an informal meeting with co-ownership, and I know that's in progress. We just need to settle a date for that. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riley?
Yeah, Chair, I'm very pleased to propose to note in the report.
Propose to note and seconded by Councillor Robinson.
Second that.
Okay, thank you. And item 9 is to consider a report regarding transboundary consultation on the Dublin Array offshore wind farm, paper F.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So paper FM, members. So that's the report on the transboundary application, which is the Dublin Array offshore wind farm. So this is a matter for decision then, members. There's a consultation here for the council to respond to. So the council has been consulted by the EFI in relation to the transboundary application for the one farm, which is located approximately 10 kilometres off the coastline of the counties Dublin and Wicklow at the Kish and Bray banks and the Irish Sea. So the transboundary application then, the consultations from An Bord Pleanála, and it's obviously coordinated through the Department of Infrastructure, and that's in accordance with Regulation 30 of the EIA regulations. So the correct process has been followed then in relation to this transboundary application. There is a substantial volume of information accompanying the application, members. That's all available to view online. The one farm itself will be connected to a single offshore substation platform via interconnected subsea cables. Turbines will be up to 310 metres in height. And from the offshore substation platform, there'll be two export cables, and they'll connect the one farm to the shore at the Shanaha Cliffs in County Dublin. So in terms of the actual development then, members, it's located in Dunleary, Rathdown County Council area. It's some distance from our boundary, members, so it's unlikely to have any direct impacts on FODC, unlike some of the other transboundary applications that we might get for one farms along our boundary. That said, members, it's always good to respond with some key issues just in terms of our own response, and those are set out there in general headings and members from paragraph 2.3.1. I suppose just to note a couple of things then, members. In general, when officers looked at the An Bord Pleanála website, the layout of all the information was in a very easily accessible and user-friendly format, members. So very easy for the public to navigate, find the information, and that always sort of reduces delays and helps the public become involved in these applications. In terms of renewables then, obviously the plan strategy supports a diverse range of renewable energy development, whilst at the same time taking into consideration environmental, landscape, visual and amenity impacts. So it's just getting that balance right, members. Climate change again is an important consideration in all this. And then visual impacts, members, there is an area of outstanding natural beauty there along the coastline, similar to our own district. So it's just recognise the landscape and visual impacts as well, and those have to be balanced up. And with those landscape and visual impacts is tourism and the importance of tourism as well. So we've made various comments on some key issues there, members. And if members are content, then it's a matter for decision, and we would respond to the consultation as set out in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So that is for decision in respect to the response to the consultation. And Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I propose to know. I know it's far away, but it's good to get that kind of correspondence and read through it, and it was happy enough to propose to know.
No problem. Francis, you're happy to propose the endorsement of the draft response to the consultation. Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that? Councillor McGuire, and all agreed? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor O'Reilly.
Can I ask, just as a matter of curiosity, why there is so much redaction in the titles and the names and so forth and so on?
So when we're making public the letters, publishing them online, we would normally redact the signatures and the names of officers. So it's just the officers' names and the signatures that's been redacted out of it. And we've done that just in accordance with GDPR. We would normally do that in terms of planning department.
So are we saying that the GDPR sort of now says that any documents that is going out publicly are who the planning officer or who the chief executive is or anything like that is redacted? This is certainly a new departure, and I think personally, I think it's it's a worrying degree of movement in that we seem to be feeding into this secretive society as to who is doing what and who is responsible for what. I don't know if I'd like to feed into my curiosity.
Sinead in here, Director of Regeneration.
Yeah.
It's the correspondence.
It looks like the correspondence, item 10.1, is that right? From Mid-East Antrim? Yeah.
I suppose, thank you, Chair. The piece on redaction, it probably depends on the context of the correspondence, but I suppose fundamentally, if it was the name of a chief executive or a director, names that are widely in the public domain, a permanent secretary, anything like that, I suppose senior grades. But in terms of the redaction we've completed, there probably are names that are not necessarily in the public domain. And that's the broad approach we've taken, which is probably similar approach then to what we would take on planning. Maybe letters that would go on the portal and signatures broadly would be redacted whenever they would be in the public domain as well.
So notwithstanding that sort of answer there, Chair, the permanent secretary of the Department of Agriculture and Rural Affairs is not well enough known to be named.
Go ahead, Paul. Yeah.
Look, this is only an academic curiosity here, Chair. It's not life and death, but I just think it is a worrying trend to. This is the first time I've really, at least, cottoned on to that, and I think the permanent secretary of the Department of Agriculture to redact there, I'm failing to see the rationale.
Yeah, no, we'll accept that, Councillor O'Reilly. We would normally, for those, I think there's been a bit of an over redaction in this document where we always take a cautious approach, but I think there has been a bit of an over redaction here. Normally we would, if it's head of service or above, that would normally be published. Anything else would be redacted. So yeah, look, I accept the comments and we'll take that on board for future.
And Chair, I appreciate your indulgence from to prosecute this a little. Where did we, is this a council policy that has sort of been agreed that we start this redaction thing to everybody below heads of service? Because I'm not so sure that I remember that sort of going past, but I may well have missed that one somewhere along the line.
Sinead, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I think it would be more probably just compliance with GDPR rather than it be a council policy on it. So to be the application of the GDPR principles, which I suppose then in terms of, I suppose what we would apply as, I suppose good practice or trying to adhere to those, that would be the approach that I described. So above head of service then, certainly those names are, I mean, if you went on to our website, those staff are named, but below that we would tend then to redact.
And Chair, I appreciate that this is obviously not the right committee for it here, but Chair, I would propose that we do sort of have some discussion on this at probably PNR or somewhere to give us an understanding of what we're doing before it gets to the overcautious that we don't know who does what anywhere, you know.
Yeah, I think
Who the councillors are.
I think members are in agreement with that, so I'm sure that'll be brought back through PNR. Thank you, councillor. Now, the substance of 10.1, we have to deal with. Oh, did we not agree? We have agreed that, sorry, we have, the transboundary has been agreed. And 10.1 is to note this correspondence from Shared Environmental Services that you referred to. And Paul's going to talk us through that.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot in it, members, and it's quite complex. But I suppose given a summary of it, it relates to delay in the progression of advice on the consideration of transboundary impacts and assessment on, in relation to land spreading in the Republic of Ireland. So the advice to date, members, has been that we need to consider these impacts on the designated sites where there's been spreading in the Republic of Ireland. We have a number of applications ourselves in the system, I think between 10 and 13 that are affected. Obviously, to consider the impacts, we need some form of engagement with the Republic of Ireland and some advice and guidance, and that doesn't appear to have happened so far. So you can see the letters then, members, is just raising this regionally, and it is getting attention regionally, and it was raised at the strategic planning group as well, members. So collectively, I think there is going to be some discussion of all the key partners. They try and move this on. So it was just to let members know that there is a delay with some of these applications, and it's really around their advice and understanding the impacts from the transboundary spreading of poultry litter and other litter, members. So if we proceeded without having the correct advice, obviously that puts us at risk in terms of non-compliance with our obligations. So it's really just to update members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. It's just for clarity, SAS are supposed to advise the councils, and like we have NIEA, and to be like they're with the Department of Agriculture, but SAS, they don't have any powers as such, but I just see there that there's maybe a possibility that the council might have to take legal advice, and who pays for that? Is it all the councils, and who is funding SAS? Is that the councils as well? And it's just clarification, because they have no statutory decision powers, and like I wouldn't be happy that applications will be put on hold, because you go through if somebody applies for plan permission, obviously a ratepayer, they go through the whole system, modelling, do all, and then NIEA, and then get stuck at the rear with SAS. If you're not, you don't really have any statutory power, but then they're holding up the applications, and is there any applications that possibly would be held up? Just for clarity, Chair, thank you.
Head there, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So members, I suppose just to make it clear that we have a number of applications which are being held. So there's two issues. One, we need to assess the impacts of the transboundary spreading of litter, and it's how we then assess that. We need advice from the Republic of Ireland as part of the consultation. So just drawing the distinction then between NAA. So NAA is the statutory consultee, when we would consult them on natural heritage matters. SES is a shared service that provides advice to councils. They're not a statutory body, but they provide advice to councils in relation to this discharge of our functions under the conservation regulations, which is about habitats regulations assessment, European designated sites. So there's a slight difference of what NAA do and what SES do. And the way SES is, they have council appointed to advise them, and that's essentially to ensure that the advice that they're giving us as a council is correct and right and robust and can stand up to any challenge member. So that's just important to draw the distinction between NAA and SES. So although they're not a statutory consultee, they do provide us with advice to ensure that we're complying with the legislation. Thank you, Chair.
And in terms of funding of SES, is it joint between councils? Go ahead, sir. Just to confirm that there.
Yes, as I understand, it's a shared service between all the councils, and that's funded by the councils.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath.
Just about the legal part, Paul, you have NAA and DAFM very happy with the process at the minute, even though there's an ammonia protocol going on at the minute, so, should plan applications be held up because of this, even though that DAFM and NAA are happy with the situation?
Well, as I understand it, NAA is not providing us with advice in terms of that specific obligation under the conservation regulations. That's for SES. So NAA, in terms of their operational protocol and the impacts of designated sites in Northern Ireland, they're content, and that's the approach. But this is really about the transboundary spreading of litter down south, and NAA haven't provided any specific comment on that to us. That advice comes from Shared Environmental Services, and so we would need that advice and that guidance from them as part of the consultation process to ensure that our decision making then is correct.
Go ahead.
And sorry, Paul, just like what kind of numbers of applications would that be affecting at the minute? Because NAA would be held up. It's hard enough to get planning through without having another body that's trying to,
Well, it's just to be clear that it's not SES that's holding up the applications. It's just the getting the advice to ensure that the assessments of transboundary impacts are correct. I think SES has been proactive here in trying to raise the issues and ensure that they're progressing. We have around 10 or 12 applications, but they're not sitting officers or proactively engaging with the applicants and agents to look at other solutions as well. So we are trying to move those forward. There's no application sitting for Mananoma just sitting on the shelf with nothing being progressed on.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And you happy to note the correspondence, Councillor McGrath?
Yes.
Happy to note, and seconded by Councillor Feely. Okay, thank you. Any other correspondence? No. Okay, then. Any other urgent and relevant business? I think we have one item to discuss, and that's in respect. Sinead's going to get some clarity on numbers.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I just wanted to check with members. I know we had provisionally thought about having our LDP steering group tomorrow, but obviously it's an in-person meeting, and I wanted really just to check then if we have numbers that we would be in court to bring everyone in Doma for that. So that's really my ask, is to clarify attendance tomorrow. So far I have responses back from Councillor Campbell, Councillor Feely in terms of attendance. Councillor Irvine isn't able to attend. Councillor McGuire is able to attend. Councillor O'Reilly is on the basis in the morning. Councillor Rainey can't, and Councillor Thompson can. Yep.
I'm representing the chair in Gortin tomorrow morning, so I can't. Yeah.
Councillor Mahan, go ahead just to check your availability.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just checking on the agenda if is there anything with site selection involved or maybe if they could.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, we will be running through a lot of site selections tomorrow. It's all the villages and small settlements, so there'll be quite a few that we'll be running through site assessments on.
Okay, Chair. No, I don't think I'll be available tomorrow. Thank you.
And just to clarify, members, it would be in the Grange if we're meeting in person. Yep.
It's on our plan there, it's both the Grange.
Aye, no, it should just say the Grange. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so we're just going to check numbers for that. See, can we? Councillor McGrath, go ahead.
No, I won't be available.
Yeah, no problem. Just noted. Thank you. Councillor McClary is not. Councillor, are you available tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the Grange?
Chair, I'm not very hopeful. That phone call I was taking there, I have a relative in hospital, and I'm basically I've come home from the hospital and logged on to this, and it looks like I'm trying to sort out maybe another family member to stay with them tomorrow, but it's not looking very good. Morning times are very difficult.
I understand. Yes. Councillor, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robinson.
I'm not available either tomorrow.
Okay. We do have 7, so we are quoted anyway at that stage. So thank you for that, members. And just confirming we will meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. here in the Grange. Members, I now take a proposal to go into committee. Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Thompson. And we'll just wait for the nod from my Thank you. I'm going to ask Sinead just to provide a summary.
Thank you, Chair. So while in confidential business, members considered an update report regarding the timetable for the preparation of the local development plan and agreed the recommendation of the report.
Okay, thank you, members, and noted Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor McAuliffe. Okay, and there'll be no further business. I'll see you all tomorrow then, or most of you anyway, at 10 a.m. And the meeting is ended. Thank you. And happy Christmas, Nollaig Hannah, to anyone that's not going to be here tomorrow. Nollaig Hannah, Dave. I could. I could, but I won't.